Welcome back to EDH Deck Building, and I am your host, Demo. That's right, it's me again, and we're getting towards the end of the year here, and of course I got to do some compiling of some best of the year lists, and there's a lot to talk about. I was actually going to do a top 20 cards from like 99 cards, like I do with all sets. I do the 99 cards and then I do the commanders. I like to keep them separate. So I was going to do top 20 cards from the year, the 99 ones, and then I was going to do the top 20 commanders from the year. And as I was compiling those lists, I was like, okay, first of all, there's a ton of removal in this list. I think when I made my original list, there was like 8 removal spells in the list, and I was like, I don't know about that. Also, there was a whole bunch of stuff that I missed. So I've broken it down into 4 different lists, okay? And I'm going to have I'm going to have the top 20 cards in the 99. I'm going to have the top 20 commanders. I'm going to have the basically a list of cards that are sort of flew under the radar. A lot of utility cards that I think are just great, that are going to fit in a lot of decks. Not necessarily very powerful, but cards that just go really well in a commander game that I sort of missed. Cards that sort of flew under the radar for me, but also for other people. Mostly though cards that I missed. And then of course the removal spells, and this list is the top 10 removal spells of the year because man, there were just so many. This was the year of removal, and as you can tell by my shirt, removal wins games, right? That's right, I had this shirt made. I really do believe that, and I think the reason why we have so much removal is how much great removal come out this year, and this plays into another video that I'm going to do towards the end of the year. I have a couple other sort of end of the year videos that I'm going to do. I think it is a little bit of Wizards of the Coast compensating for, we kind of had a couple of years of them printing a lot of really busted cards for Commander. Not necessarily specifically for Commander, but that's just the way it ended up. And so I think maybe part of the reason why we got so much fantastic removal this year is because they are compensating for that. They're also compensating in other ways, which I will get to in a different video. But let's get to the list. Starting out as an honorable mention is Resculpt, and I have to name this as a honorable mention just because it deals with artifacts. The fact that it deals with artifacts, to me, it has to be in there. I don't love that it gives a 4/4. That's like 4/4 is pretty big, I don't know. For me, it's just like a 3/3 is acceptable, like from a rapid hybridization. 4/4 is so big. Still great though. Still fantastic. I definitely would put it in a mono blue deck for sure, just because I want to be able to deal with artifacts. But getting to the list and coming in at number 10 is Spectral Deluge, 4 blue sorcery. Return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less to owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. But of course it has Foretell, 1 blue. This to me, again, maybe I use the term auto-include too much, but this is just an auto-include. Like 2 mana, I tuck this in exile early in the game, and then later on when, things are getting out of the hand, I could just play 3 and bounce, its only opponents, right? So this is a one-sided board wipe, essentially. Pretty fantastic. I stick this in all my mono blue decks, in any deck, like a Simic deck, where again, green isn't that great at dealing with creatures, doesn't really have any creature board wipes. Whenever I say board wipes, people are like, Bane of Progress. Okay, creature board wipes. That's what I mean when I say board wipes anyway. So a Simic deck, this is great in as well. I believe I have this in my Tishana deck. So it definitely is a card that is going to see a lot of play in the format for a long time. Next up at number 9, Culling Ritual, 2 black and a green sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add a black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. Man, I like this card a lot. I wish I could put it in more decks. It doesn't, like I have my Farika deck, which is making tokens and stuff, so it actually doesn't really work there because it hurts me really bad. I have this in my Name as 1 deck. That's it. I wish I could put it in more decks because it's so fantastic. It's a board wipe and also a ritual, which is just great. It's going to hit all the mana rocks. It's going to hit all the small creatures. And again, like I've said so many times, we got so many tokens lying around now. Those treasure tokens, those clue tokens, all these tokens that we can now wipe off the board. And then on top of that, we're getting mana for it. I mean, it's just fantastic. I mean, yeah, I suppose your opponents can sacrifice their treasure tokens in response so you don't get the mana, but you're still getting them off the board. It's still fantastic for 4 mana. I just think this card is great. Coming in at number 8 is Masked Vandal, 1 in a green, Shapeshifter 1/3, Changeling. When Masked Vandal enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, exile target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. So, is this better than Rex Age? I don't know. The jury's still out there. It is conditional, right? You have to exile a creature from your graveyard. And I have had a couple situations where early in the game, I want to use this on someone's Rhystic Study that they have out, and I can't because I don't have a creature in my graveyard yet, which sucks. I just love that it's a creature, right? Abilities stapled on creatures are always going to be better because you can reuse them. I like that it is a changeling because now it can go in all those, pretty much any tribal deck, where you could put this in elf tribal deck, why not? Because it's going to take advantage of all those elf effects. And it's exile, right? And we all know exile in Commander is way, way better. Also gets rid of the Perforos, right? Those damn annoying indestructible enchantments. Get rid of those as well. Speaking of exile, coming in at number 7 is Vanishing Verse. White and a black instant. Exile, target a monocolored permanent. You're exiling 2 mana. It's an instant. Only hits monocolored permanents, but some of the most powerful ones in the game are monocolored, right? It gets rid of that Rhystic Study, that Smothering Tithe. It gets rid of a lot of things. And, you know, when this first came out, I sort of debated with myself, is this better than D-Spark? Would I take D-Spark out of my deck to put this in? You know, Orzhov has such fantastic removal options already. That's why I have this a little bit lower on the list. For me, I'm putting D-Spark and this in a deck. You know, should you take D-Spark out to put this in? I don't know. It's a tough one. I guess it depends on your play group, right? I don't think you're going to have a problem finding a 4 mana value or greater permanent to get off the table ever in a game. Which situation's going to happen more? I don't know, right? The Rhystic Study one is probably the best example because Vanishing Verse will hit that and a D-Spark will not, right? So, you know, which one's better? The debate will rage on, but nevertheless, it's a fantastic card. Coming in at number 6, and this is another one that I gushed over from Strixhaven. I still think Strixhaven, and you'll see a lot of Strixhaven on a lot of my end-of-year lists because it's a fantastic set for Commander. And Rip Apart is to me, and again, another auto-include. I know I should maybe overuse that word a little bit, but in a Boros deck, how do you not put this in there, right? Red and a white, sorcery. Choose one. Rip Apart deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. So essentially, this is kill a creature, a planeswalker, an artifact, or an enchantment, which is incredible on a 2-mana sorcery. Yes, it's a sorcery, and I know some people are just all about the instant speed removal. How do you not use that? Like, what are you going to put in your deck ahead of this? In your Boros deck, right? That's going to deal with all these different things. Yes, I like instants just as much in the next guy, maybe more, but for me, it's all about the versatility. It's all about, wouldn't you know it, my opponent has a Oko on the board that I really want to get off the table, and a Swords to Plowshares is going to do nothing against that, right? Maybe you guys watched my Stifle versus Swords to Plowshares video where I talk about that, right? A lot of times your opponent's going to have a permanent or something on the battlefield that is it's just going to be ruining the game for you, and a Swords to Plowshares is just going to sit in your hand, right? This deals with Rhystic Study. This deals with Smothering Tithe. This deals with an Oko. This deals with, an Aetherflux Reservoir. This deals with a lot of stuff. And I like a 2-mana spell that's just going to sit in my hand and solve a lot of problems for me. Coming in at number 5, and I got a couple board wipes in a row here, and it was tough to decide which one goes where, and you could probably figure out what the other one is. This one's by invitation only. 3 white sorcery, and this one got the lower spot mostly because I don't like the name. The other one has a way cooler name. I don't love this name, but that's not the actual reason. Really, you could swap them both out. This one I really, really like. Choose a number between 0 and 13. Each player sacrifices that many creatures. I mean, it's just so fantastic. The sacrifice, the fact that you're making your opponent sacrifice gets around hexproof, indestructible, shroud, and all that good stuff. The fact that you can manipulate the number depending on how many creatures, like you could even just choose one for this. If you got a big board, which a lot of white decks do, typically, right? And your opponents all have like one creature, they all have to sacrifice their creature, and you just sacrifice a human token or something. Like, that's just a blowout, right? I'll pay 5 mana for that any day of the week. Also, it can be my opponent has a huge board, and now I choose 13, and they all have to sacrifice all their creatures. So, just fantastic board wipe that we're going to see in the format for a long, long time, I think. But I think even better coming in at number 4 is Vanquish the Horde. It was a tough one. It was a tough one. We got a lot of great white board wipes, and there's even a couple more board wipes on here, like Devastating Mastery or Doomscar, that I didn't include on this list. That's how many great white board wipes we got this year. 6 white sorcery. If you haven't seen this card before, you're going to be seeing it a lot in the format for a long, long time, though. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, and you destroy all creatures. So just like with Blasphemous Act, Blasphemous Act, I regularly cast that for 1 red mana. This, you're going to be regularly casting it for 2 white mana. Having 6 creatures on the battlefield, that happens almost always, right? I wouldn't be casting this unless there was 6 creatures on the battlefield, unless there was a very specific reason, like my opponent cast an Elishnorn or a Vorinclex or something really nasty that I have to get off the table right away, and this is the only thing I have in my hand. Other than that, wait till there's 6 creatures on the battlefield. Make it worth your while. I always say that about board wipes. It's a value situation where I want to get as much value as I can. I don't need to draw 20 cards if I'm in white. I can just cast a Vanquish the Horde and destroy all my opponent's creatures with 1 card. That's value, right? That's card advantage. This is a great way to do it, and this is a fantastic card. Obviously I'm putting this in all my white decks. I'm sure everybody is. It's a card we're going to see for a long, long time. Is it better than by invitation only? It's a toss-up. I put them back to back because honestly, you could go either way with it. Really. Coming in at number 3 is Infernal Grasp. 1 on a black instant, destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. And like I said when this came out, and man, there's a lot of cards on this list from Midnight Hunt as well. So Midnight Hunt and Strixhaven gave us so much great removal. And this one I really, really like. Again, they set a precedent here when they made this card, because this is 2 mana, destroy any creature. You lose 2 life. Okay, who cares, right? Even in like Modern or something, that's not a big deal. They've set a precedent here. We now have a 2 mana card. It used to be 3 mana. It used to be you had to spend 3 mana to destroy any creature. The 2 mana ones at instant speed for sure were, it has to be a legendary creature, or it can't be a legendary creature, or it can't be a black creature, or it can't be an artifact creature, or something to that effect. There was a little bit of limitation on it. This has 0 limitation. You can hit any card. And for me, again, I know people love Snuff Out and cards like that. The fact that I can hit any creature, right? I don't want to be restricted by the creatures that I can hit. There's always going to be the guy with the Atraxa or the Muldrotha that I really want to get off the table, and this can do that. This can hit anything, and that's what I love so much about it. And again, like the top 5-6 cards on this list are cards that you're going to see in the format for a long, long time. They're going to be everywhere, right? Go for the Throat is sort of the go-to black removal spell, that spot removal spell that people played for years and years and years. This is now replacing it. I mean, you could play both, but this is now the card that you're going to go to first. Coming in at number 2 is Raven Form. 2 and a blue sorcery, exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying, and of course it has Foretell, 1 blue. So you pay the 2 blue, and then you can play it later for the 1 blue. And again, like I said when I first talked about this card, that's just gravy, right? That you're just adding on to the fact that it's already 3 mana sorcery that exiles an artifact or creature, and my opponent gets a 1/1 bird token. I'm putting that in all my blue decks. Again, I love that it can hit artifacts. I, for a long time, just really avoided playing blue decks, Dimir decks, because they couldn't deal with artifacts and enchantments. Can't really deal with enchantments still, but I can deal with artifacts, and I love that. I love that you can deal with artifacts. I know people don't like that this isn't instant speed, but so what? I had someone say, well, rapid hybridization is better because it's instant speed, but it doesn't get rid of artifacts, right? I'm not putting this in my deck because it deals with creatures really well. It does. I'm putting this in my deck because it deals with artifacts and creatures really, really well, right? I honestly don't know what most people do. For me, removal wins games, right? So in my blue deck, so my Abishon deck, which I just won a game with against some of my patrons on Spell Table last week, I have Raven Form, and I have Rapid Hybridization, and I have Pongify, and I have Curse of the Swine, right? And I have Resculpt. I have all of them, right? So you can have the discussion which one's better, but at the end of the day, I'm going to put them all in. This is an auto-include, I think. For me, Raven Form, if you're especially in a mono blue deck, is an auto-include, because it's exiling. Yeah, it's a sorcery, And the Foretell, again, is just added bonus for me, I think. But coming in at number 1 is Fateful Absence. 1 and a white instant, destroy target creature or planeswalker its controller investigates. I just, again, very similar to an Infernal Grasp. This is 2 mana, destroy any creature or planeswalker. Again, for me, I love versatility. How often are you going to use this on a planeswalker? I don't know. Probably not a lot, but I like that you have the option to. And the investigate is so minor. So minor. This is like your opponent doesn't even get to draw a card. They have to pay 2 mana to draw a card. Like it's almost nothing. And the added bonus is I can use it on myself if I'm really in a desperate situation. I can destroy my own creature, create a clue token so that I can draw a card. How often is that going to happen? I don't know. I will say, though, in my Denic deck, which I love that deck, I have a Tamiyo's Journal in that deck, and I can destroy my own creature if I have 2 clue tokens to create a 3rd clue token, because I actually want my creatures to die in that deck, so I can destroy my own creature. In fact, if I have 1 clue token in play, I can destroy my own creature. That will trigger my commander's ability and create another clue token, and I get another clue token here. So now I have 3, and I can sacrifice them all to go get anything out of my deck, so it becomes a tutor. So, I fringe, I know, but I love my removal. I'm a big fan of white, so maybe that's why for me this card's number 1. It's versatile. I like that. It's instant speed. It's everything you look for in removal. Everything you want in removal. It's cheap. It's instant speed. It's versatile. So it's hitting all those buttons for me. That's why it's number 1. But that is my list of the top 10 removal spells. And again, just the removal spells. Okay. I'm going to be doing a list of all of the, the rest of the 99 cards, because there's just so many. We had a really good year for Commander. So I got a lot of a best of the year list coming out, and obviously when I do that list there's not going to be any removal spell on it, so just to clarify on that. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.